Political life of Imam Khomeini.
Two groups of people have always influenced the political arena: spectators and those who play a role in this arena. Imam Khomeini was not only an astute observer and thoughtful analyst, but he was also one of the most important political figures of the 20th century. When he was a child, his father was martyred by local tribal chiefs, and he observed the battle between truth-seeking men and agents of the tribal chiefs. Of these times he said,
Maybe none of you remember this kind of disorder, but when we were children, we experienced these events in our hometown. When I was a child, I had a gun and I could shoot.
The most important political events which affected the Imam began from the eclipse of the Qajar dynasty and the beginning of Reza Khan's reign. These included the consolidation of Reza Khan's power and the beginning of the Pahlavi regime, disputes among the members of the national parliament, suppression of the clergy and religious institutions, Ayatollah Modarres's campaign against the regime, prohibition of the Islamic dress code, severe isolation of the clergy and their withdrawal from political activities, the advent of World War II and the presence of Allied forces in Iran, and the downfall of Reza Khan and the subsequent happiness of the Iranian people. Other events through which Imam Khomeini also gained valuable and important experience included the formation of different parties and growth of materialistic currents, the rise of liberation and nationalist movements in third world countries, Ayatollah Khashani and Dr. Mossadegh's uprising, and the nationalization of Iran's oil industry, America's coup d'etat in Iran of August 18, 1953, and the ensuing oppressive years. Some of Imam's opinions about these events can be viewed through his statements. About the parliament under Reza Khan, he suggested,
Whatever they did after the constitutional period and all provisions which grew during Pahlavi's reign, Parliament played a role in them. They digressed from the aims of consultation and wanted to establish a law-by-the-sword Parliament. Finally, they denied people their right to vote.
Imam Khomeini always remembered that period and that Reza Khan had suppressed all religious authorities. He said,
They prohibited all ceremonies of recital of the tragedies of Karbala and suppressed all clerics in such a severe way that they could not even appear in public places.
One of the most important political events at that time was the presence of Allied forces in Iran and the subsequent downfall of Reza Khan. Freedom of political parties and their activities were extended after Reza Khan's fall. Various political parties and currents were created, and a type of mental suffering dominated the country. At the time, Imam Khomeini was considered as one of the most accomplished scholars of the seminary school. He published his first political book in response to accusations made by some intellectuals against Shi'ism. This work, titled Discovery of Secrets, indicated his revolutionary spirit, revivalist insight, and new ideas for social and political concerns of the country. Moreover, the book expressed the depth of the Imam's knowledge and experience in the field of social and political events. Beginning in 1950, with the advent of the National Front led by Dr. Mossadegh and Ayatollah Khashani's presence in the Iranian political scene, a new horizon came into existence whose most important achievements were the nationalization of the oil industry and fracture of Iran's relations with Britain, Mossadegh's coming to power, and the Shah's flight from the country. But the bloody coup on August 18, 1953, masterminded by the CIA in collusion with some domestic elements, was a big setback for the Iranian nation. After that, Iranians endured 25 years of indescribable strangulation and despotism. 10 years after the 1953 coup, the revolt on June 4, 1963, led by Imam Khomeini, was the first and strongest blow to the foundation of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's regime. In fact, this revolt expressed popular objection to the Bill of Provincial Councils, in which Islamic principles had been clearly violated.
The revolt was severely suppressed by the government's agents, and a large number of people were killed in various cities throughout the country, and Imam Khomeini was for a time placed under arrest. In 1964, the bill of enacting legal immunity for all Americans living in Iran was approved by the parliament. On October 25, 1964, Imam Khomeini delivered a speech against the bill and the ruling regime. The Imam was sent into exile by agents of the regime to Bursa, Turkey on November 3, 1964, after delivering this speech and publishing a declaration on its contents. Imam Khomeini stayed in Turkey for 1 year and was sent to Najaf, Iraq, where he lived for 13 years.
During these years, Imam Khomeini found the chance to gain more experience and deepen his relations with different classes of people. Several events happened in these years which made the conditions ripe for revolution. These included the people's increasing affinity for Imam Khomeini's guidance and their compliance to his teachings and declarations, the Shah's despotism and intolerance and restriction of individual and social freedoms, dissemination of Western culture and neglect of religious culture on the part of the government, advent of new movements in thought, such as those launched by Dr. Shariati and martyr Muntahari. With the martyrdom of Imam Khomeini's eldest son, the process of the Islamic Revolution began, resulting in the triumph of the revolution on February 10, 1979, and the collapse of the Shah's dictatorial regime. The immigration of Imam Khomeini from Najaf to Paris, in the heart of Western civilization, in November 1978, when he was 78 years old, was a turning point in his life, which disclosed his revivalistic thoughts.
من دعاگوی شما هستم، من خدمتگزار شما هستم، من صلاح حال شما را میخوام.
Surely Imam Khomeini's 10-year leadership after the victory of the Islamic Revolution was the greatest period of his life. The Iranian nation was able to overcome many formidable events under the guidance of the great leader. Some of these events included the imposed 8-year war against Saddam's regime, various attempted coups and conspiracies, many cases of assassination by terrorist groups, some internal disputes, separatist movements in some parts of the country, and the alliance of the Eastern and Western superpowers against the Islamic Revolution.